Depending on who you talk to, whether that's a medical biller who is already in the field or someone who's trying to get in the field, you are going to get different responses as to if it's hard to get into medical billing or if it's easy to get into medical billing. Now, in my experience, it was quite easy to get into medical billing. When I put my mind to it and that I really wanted to do it, I was in it. And I will link that video above to let you hear about my journey getting into the medical billing field. But since I started this channel, I have gotten a lot of questions about how to get into the field. A lot of people have been telling me that they are trying to get into the field or they're trying to get into specifically medical billing and can't get into medical billing. And I just wanted to do a video to kind of give you guys some tips on what you may be doing wrong, why you can't get into medical billing, and what you should do in order to get a job as a medical biller. So keep watching. My name is Tamika. I'm a certified professional biller and a certified professional practice manager. And on this channel, I have a playlist that has maybe about 4 or 5 videos in there speaking about getting a job as a medical biller. So if you haven't checked that out, please do. So of course, this is my opinion. I have been in the field for close to 20 years, so I think I have a little bit of knowledge. I am also a practice manager, like I said, so I do a lot of interviewing and hiring of individuals in the field. So I have an idea of what providers look for in a biller. I also have my own billing company, so that is another way that I know what providers kind of look for when they're looking for a biller. So I hope this video is helpful to you. So let me jump into what I believe you may be doing wrong, why you can't get a position as a medical biller. The first thing is that you're not applying to enough jobs. So if you send out your resume to, 3, 4, 5 jobs, that just is not enough. There are many people out there looking for a job, and you can't just rely on maybe one position. If you saw a position in your local paper and you applied to that, and then you might have seen another one online and you applied to that, and you're like waiting for these 2 jobs to maybe give you a call. That is not enough. If you are really serious about getting into this field, you're going to need to apply to more than one job. I would say apply to 10, 20, 30 jobs. There are enough jobs out there for you to apply to. You just have to look. Now, I've done a video on the different places that hire medical billers, so if you haven't watched that, please do. But you don't want to just apply to a few jobs or a couple jobs. You want to apply to a lot of different jobs. So you'll be able to have a better chance of getting called for one of these jobs. If you've only applied to 2 jobs, then you have a lesser chance of being called for those 2 jobs. You need to be continuously going out there, putting in your resume to different places until you get a job. The second thing that I think you're doing wrong is applying to the wrong jobs or not applying to the right jobs. Basically the same thing, but what I mean is you're applying to the wrong jobs, meaning you're only looking for jobs that say medical biller or medical billing specialist or something with billing in it. But there are several other jobs out there that require a medical biller, but that's not the title of the position. And I realized that when I actually went out there to just start to go and look to see what kind of jobs they do have. So you might type in medical biller in the search box, and then you find maybe 5 or 6 of medical billing jobs that actually say medical biller in there. But if you look deeper, they might say revenue coordinator or something like that. And that's actually a biller. Now remember that each job has a different title. So they will title the billing position to whatever they want to title it. It doesn't necessarily have to say biller on it in order for it to be billing. Also, I would recommend to applying to other positions. So anything with the front desk or check in, check out, um, eligibility and verification, positions that revolve around or deal with different parts of billing. So when you are dealing with the front desk, you might be taking payments, you're checking eligibility and verification, you're making appointments. All of those things work with billing. So you might have the position of a front desk receptionist, let's say, but when you look at the description of that position, it says, we want you to send out claims, we want you to do eligibility and verification, we want you to do this, that, third, we want you to call insurances. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to say biller in order for you to apply to that position. Then your resume and cover letter may be generic. That's another thing that you're probably doing wrong. I know for me, I don't like writing resumes. I haven't had to write a resume in, I don't know, 15 years. And so I really don't like to write them because it's like, well, what do I do? And what, it's something that you really have to think about. But you can also have someone do it for you. And a lot of times you can tell the ones that are generic and not personalized to the person. They just kind of use the same terms and, I'm looking for a position that will help me grow as a person. Like, that is a generic resume. You need to not have a resume that you took off of Google. Your resume needs to be personalized to you. And a lot of times when you send out these resumes, these jobs have, hundreds of individuals who have applied. And if yours is generic, you're going to get thrown to the back or thrown in the garbage, not looked at ever again. So you want to make sure that your resume is not generic, or the cover letter, because I still believe in cover letters that go along with your resume. Then you may not be getting the job because you have poor interviewing skills. So after you have applied to the right position and then they've chosen your resume, you come into the interview and you bomb. So you need to make sure that the energy and the creativity and the personalization that you put into your resume is then reflected in person when you are actually interviewing with that person, whether it's in person or remotely or even on the phone. If it's on the phone, it's even worse. You need to bump up your attitude, your tone of voice, all of those things on the phone, because now the person can't see you. When they actually are seeing you, you need to make sure that you're doing the same thing, you're asking questions, all of those things. So your interviewing skills may be poor, and that's why you're not getting the job. So if you've gone as far as to applying to the right positions, being called, but after the interview, you may not get a call back. So there are some things that you need to make sure that you do so that you can then get a call back, at least maybe for a second interview or to be hired for the job. So if any of those things resonate with you, make sure you like the video and comment below to let us know if you believe that any of those things are you, or maybe you've seen that in other people, that's why they haven't gotten the job. Also, make sure you watch to the end, because now I'm going to be giving you some tips to help you counteract those things that you may be doing wrong. So what should you be doing in order to get a medical billing job? So I'm going to go through 6 things that I think that you could do or maybe improve on in order to get this job that you want as a medical biller. And the first thing is to make sure that you're looking in the right places. So like I said, I have a video letting you know the different places that you can look for a medical billing job. Like I said, doctor's office, the different doctor's offices that they have, and several other places, but you got to check out that video to see the places that I mentioned. But even in looking in the right places, you have to look in the right ways, meaning locally you can go look around, look at your local Department of Labor website, or in person. You can look in the local newspapers. Maybe there are other areas in your local vicinity that shares job posts. Okay, that's the first way. Of course, you can look online, depending on where you want to look. They may have jobs online, in person, or remotely. Of course, a lot of us want to try and do this remote thing, but especially if you're just starting out as a biller, you may not be able to do the job remotely. I'm not saying that all billers who are starting out new will never get a remote job. I'm not saying that, but that's not the only way. And sometimes because you're new, the job won't let you do it remotely. Maybe not at first, maybe not at all. I don't know. But it's not always remote. So basically, it's where you're looking and it is the way that you're looking for the job. So that's the first thing that you need to do. The second thing that you need to do is make sure that you look at several positions. So don't just, like I said, go and look at one position and expect that you're going to get that one position, because there are probably many people who are applying for that same job. So you want to make sure you diversify your resume. You want to diversify yourself, if that's the correct word, and send your resume out to plenty other places. So you're going to need to look at a lot of different positions to be able to apply to. And as you are applying for these positions, you need to make sure that you are reading the descriptions. You want to read the title of the job and you want to read the description, because the descriptions is the most important part, I believe, of that position. So as business owners, they can title their position anything they want to. Some billers are called, medical biller 1 and 2. Other billers can be billing specialists. I mean, there are so many names. Revenue specialists, like reimbursement specialists. Like, there are so many names for billers. So you can't necessarily look at the title of the position. You need to look in the description and see what are the duties that the company wants you to do. And that will give you a better idea of whether or not you will be working as a biller or you won't be working as a biller. Or at least maybe you'll be working closely with the billing department. Then you want to do your research. So if you decide to apply to a specific job at a company, you want to make sure that you know a little bit about that company. Now, I'm not trying to say that you need to go so deep into learning about the company that you have to know when it was started and how many employees it have. I'm really not saying all of that. But I am saying that you need to know what company you are working for, at least maybe what they do, maybe what their purpose is or their goal is. You want to know a little bit more about them. So just in case someone calls you and asks you, well, I see that you're interested in this position. Do you know what we do? Or, do you have any experience in this specific specialty? Or whatever the question may be, you have a little bit of knowledge about what they do and you're not thrown off guard. There are plenty of times that I have interviewed someone for a position and I've asked them a question like, do you know what OBGYN is? Or do you know what pain medicine is? Or whatever the specialty is, and they have no idea. It's like, well, no, I don't. Like, even that, or I might say, do you know what our office does? And they don't even know what the office does. So how are you applying for a position in an office and you don't even know what the office does? That just goes to show me, at least, that you're just looking for a job, that you just don't care, like you're going to be. So if someone else offers you a job after 3 weeks and they pay you a little bit more, or they tell you they're going to give you a little bit more benefits, or whatever the situation is that entices you, you're out the door. Most of the time, when you work in the healthcare field, providers don't want to have to keep hiring over and over again. They would really like to keep the people who work there for at least a little while, at least a year. I mean, of course, we would like you to stay way longer than a year, but we don't want to have to be changing staff every 3 months, every 2 months, because patients notice those things. And having a big turnaround can be detrimental to the office. So we want to make sure that you want to be there. So even at least if you know what we do, if you have some form of interest in what we do, that will help your plight in getting a job instead of not knowing anything about the company. Then I would recommend that you kind of customize your resume, because resumes come a dime a dozen. If there is one position in this practice and there are like 20 different resumes, I need something that is going to catch my attention. So, one of the things that I look for is terms or words that relate to the specialty and to the field that I am in. That's when I am actually doing the interviews for my office. So, I would suggest to you to use some of the terms that are in the descriptions of these postings in your resume. So let's say that they have in this position that they need this person to reconcile accounts each day. And you don't have any experience in billing, but you do have experience in cashiering. So you had to deal with money in some form or fashion. And at the end of the day, you made sure that all of the money balanced and that you were clear for the day. You can put something like reconcile payments daily, as closing out the cash register or something. I don't know. I'm kind of making this up on the spot. But you can use terms that they use. You don't always have to be completely in the same exact field that they want or do the same exact thing, because a lot of times things can relate. You can get a job as a biller and not have experience in billing if you maybe have experience as a cashier. We deal with money in billing, you deal with money as a cashier, and they're kind of similar and alike. Some of the duties that you may have to do as a biller, let's say maybe counting up the money and the check, and like I said, reconciling at the end of the day, you probably had to do that as a cashier. So you need to kind of relate the two together using the terms that's in the description so that that can then stand out to the person who's looking at the resumes. And talking about standing out, you need to do something a little bit extra or a little bit more with these resumes. Again, you don't want to overdo it because this is not like a graphic design position that you're looking for. But you don't want things to look, again, so generic and so the same as everyone else's. You want to be able to stand out. So number one, let's say if you are handing in a physical resume, I would do something like maybe put it on ivory paper instead of white paper. Make sure the paper is, thick and heavy and sturdy. Maybe I might put it in a folder, a plastic folder with a cover letter. Maybe the way that it is formatted, I don't necessarily have to do it the same way that everyone else's does. Maybe instead of bullets, I might put check marks that's in color. Just something to stand out that will probably have the interviewer be like, that was different. Let me speak to this person. I know, again, that attracts me. That helps me to determine who I'm going to call in and who I'm not going to call in. I've gotten some very, very generic resumes. Most of them are generic. And then there are some, like I said, that just kind of stand out. And it could be something as simple as the paper that you use. You use something thicker, with more quality. That means you put in thought into the paper that you're using, which for me relates to that you take pride in probably yourself and the position. Like, it just goes on and on. So you kind of need to do that. Now, I know a lot of you might say, well, we don't hand in resumes anymore. Again, like I told you, you can go into your local doctor's offices and other areas to hand in resumes. But let's say online, you have to send in your resume that way. So maybe what I might do in that case is to make sure that my resume, again, looks a little bit different from everyone else's. So you know how the resumes are formatted. Most people have their name and stuff in the middle. Then they have like the objective. Then they have, maybe their skills and their job. I might do a little something like, instead of putting my name in the middle, I'll put my name on the side. And maybe I might have, my skills on the side, maybe bold, so that if they apply to what the job is, that's the first thing that the person sees. Add a cover letter, and instead of having these 2-line cover letters, I might have something a little bit longer, and that's not so generic. Not like, I'm a good person for this job because I will be an asset to your company. Like all of these generic sayings. I am a hard worker and you know, I don't know, I'm very smart. Like, it's just these kind of generic words. Maybe there needs to be something in there more personal where you may say, I believe in healthcare being important to patients because, I have a sick family member who I would love to see get quality health care, and I don't know, something to that extent, but just something to help you stand out from everyone else. When you use these generic words, like I said, like, you'll be an asset and you're a hard worker, and the one that this is an interview question that you always get. They'll say something like, what is your weakness? And then the answer would be something like, I am a perfectionist. Come on, we use that all the time. So it's like, really? No. Try to stand out. The whole point is that there are several people who are looking for the same type of position, and you want to be the one that stands out from the crowd and from the rest of the people. And whatever you have to do to stand out is what you should do to get a job. Now, it may or may not work on some people because some people are very traditional, and maybe they don't want the resume in any other color but white, or they may want the format to be one specific way. But that's not everyone. And if there is a person that you applied for who wanted that way and they don't like it, then that job just isn't for you. But you need to try and stand out, because when they're flicking through all of these resumes, or they're pulling all of these resumes up on the computer, there needs to be something that stands out to them to make them stop and say, oh, I want to interview this person. And then if you actually get to have an interview with the person, and that's whether it's on phone, in person, or remotely, you want to make sure that you have a confidence that exudes, okay? It doesn't mean that you need to know everything, because you probably won't. Now, you might not be sure and you might not know, but you don't need to have that demeanor of not being confident. If I go into a interview for a specialty that I'm not aware of, that I'm not sure. And actually, when it comes to signing on clients, I have that all the time, because I don't necessarily just stick to one specialty. So there have been a couple of times where I have no idea about that specialty. I've never billed for the specialty. I don't, know necessarily the codes of the specialty, but they want to still hire me because I am confident. They might ask me, have you ever billed for cardiology? And I would be like, well, no, I have not billed for cardiology as yet. However, I know that there are certain codes that you use, and maybe if I've done my research, I can say it's from code this, that, to that. And I also know where to go and look if I have any trouble when it comes to different payers, because each payer has payer policies and they have websites that help you with the coding or whatever the situation, or helps you with the billing. Whatever the situation is, you need to be confident in what you say. You also need to make sure that you ask questions, that you seem like you're interested and want to be involved in the interview. Having these one word answers, or if they ask you if you have any questions, you don't have any questions. If they, ask you about anything, it's just like, well, I don't know. Like, that doesn't show initiative. That doesn't show that you're really interested. And again, they don't want to hire you to have to, I guess, like, be behind of you all the time. Most jobs want people who take initiative. Not meaning that you're going to take over or you're just going to automatically go in there and know what you're doing, but they want people to take initiative, want to learn about the position. And if you don't show that in the interviewing process, then they're going to think most likely you're not going to do that when you actually have the job. Because you probably get a little bit more lax, thinking, well, I already have the job, so I don't need to do any of that. So you want to make sure that you are confident, that you show that confidence, and that you make sure you ask the pertinent questions, have questions already prepared, seem really interested in the position, because I think that will help you get the job quicker. I will see you in my next video, which will hopefully be about medical billing interviewing questions. I'll see you in the next one.